Hello and welcome to Some Boy Online, and today we've got two incredibly special guests. So without further ado, if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Why don't you go first, Nick?
Okay. All right. Okay. Hi, I'm Nick Park, and I guess I'm mostly known as the creator of Wallace and Gromit, but you know, direct stuff as well, so, all sorts.
And I am Merlin Crossingham. I am creative director of Wallace and Gromit and also director of stuff. But I suppose more importantly for this, we are both the directors of Wallace and Gromit Vengeance Most Fowl.
That
Yeah.
is, I think that's pretty much a mic drop moment, I think, for anyone watching on the channel. It's been building up with this for quite a while. So first of all, congrats on the film. It's
Wow.
been a crazy. I've been to see it in the cinema, and it's been shown all over the place. You know that very well because you've travelled the world, and it's not even out on the BBC yet, and I think that's going to be massive. So yeah, congrats on that and all of the award nominations. We're just saying you'll be knackered from
Thank you.
travelling
Yeah.
around.
I think Merlin's come back, so he's very knackered, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I only got back last night.
I haven't even been, and I'm knackered as well.
You've been busy though as well, Nick.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, all sorts.
But Jordan, we saw one of your very first reviews of the trailer, and I think you said,
Oh, no, was it?
Nick and Merlin, if you're watching, yeah, get in touch. And I was watching.
Oh no.
So we
Wow.
did try and get in touch, and I'm sorry it's taken this long to catch up with you.
It's been a drawn out. It's like a I don't know, like a game or something. I had no idea that anyone from Hardman would be watching the stuff. Until it was a mate of mine said, he was like, have they not gotten in touch with you? And I'm like, why? Like, should they have? I don't know. And he said, you are kind of the guy who does the Wallace and Gromit stuff on YouTube. So yeah, to then, I think what happened was when Merlin Crossingham is now following you, popped up on Instagram, it was kind of that was a cool moment.
Delved in as well and had a watch as well.
Oh my God. That's
Since
so
since
cool.
I found out about you.
That is so cool. But my first thought watching the film was, because I took my family with us and stuff, I think it's crazy to think that this film brings Wallace and Gromit to like a whole new generation. Because my Wallace and Gromit was Curse of the Were-Rabbit in 2005. I was 4 years old, which is mental. I've actually dug through, where was it? Because it's around Christmas time, that is from an old VHS tape of me on Christmas Day in 2005. And there's a lot of Gromit attire going on there.
Yeah,
Slippers.
all
and
kitted
everything.
out.
I didn't know this existed though, so I just went through it and I'm like, wow, this has been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I just want to say that I adore that film. That is kind of, I suppose, as I know, and I've heard you talk, Nick, before, and Merlin as well, about what inspired you, what's kind of ingrained into you from being a child. For me, it's kind of just that. So I suppose to Nick, how is that, knowing that this thing that you kind of started in college has gone on to be such a part of people's, I don't know, like DNA kind of lives?
Yeah, I mean it's like a dream come true, really. It is really because even when I started before I did animation as a kid, I just loved drawing cartoons and I remember seeing a documentary about Disney and how it all started with this just mouse, drawing and I remember then thinking as a kid I'd love to make characters that people would know, and I even made little badges at school and no one knew the characters. I had a character called Walter the Rat and I made a little badge out the bottom of a yogurt pot and wore it at school. And hoping it would catch on somehow.
It's so cool. I kind of, I do get that because as a kid, you obviously imagine all these things. The difference being with you that the world also can kind of see inside your head for a bit, I have to show off 2 seconds. So about 20 years old is this from around the same time.
Right.
And for one, I'm like, how do I still have this stuff? I've stuck a Santa hat on him. and he's seen better days. But that would be like a family heirloom.
Well loved by the look of it.
It is.
But yeah, so fast forward to now, this happens. I suppose I've already covered it briefly, but when did you become aware of the channel before we get into the film?
For me, just as we were gearing up into the PR side of filmmaking, so you make a film and then you have to promote the film. We have things start popping up on my timeline, and also we have alerts for what's going on with Wallace and Gromit around social media, and I can't remember if it came up on my feed or if it was on one of the lists we were given. Anyway, I gave it a click, and I very much like the style of your channel. Your attention to detail was remarkable.
Thank you. It's kind of a tricky thing because YouTube's it's an incredibly unstable job, and it's a difficult thing, as you'd know, to kind of tell your family, oh, I'm trying to do this, you know. I suppose I've got you and Wallace and Gromit to thank for that, because it was so much more popular than anything else that I talked about, which at the time it was kind of dormant, you know. There wasn't going to be a film or anything, so it's really funny that I started it up and then all of this happened. But as Nick just showed a second ago, I don't know if you can pull it up, we both happen to have Gromit mugs.
Oh yeah.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers, Nick.
Top merch.
That's a dream come true.
Yeah, this wasn't planned.
It wasn't. I had, you know, it was in the back of my mind. But the Gromit mug is this huge kind of internet phenomenon. Do you understand why? Do you have any kind of experience with the Gromit mug memes?
I don't, but weirdly it was my first ever directing job.
Oh, that commercial.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So after Were Rabbit, this opportunity with, I think it was PG Tips, came up, and you saved coupons or it was an on-pack offer. Anyway, the thing was that mug with Gromit's nose, the original one, when you put tea in it, the nose changed colour.
Yeah.
So that was my first ever solo directing gig.
This one still does.
Oh, yours is the original, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, they brought it back. I'm not sure.
Oh, they brought it back.
Yes, they have.
Yeah.
There's a few of them on the shelf up the top there.
Right.
Because I became like that Gromit mug bloke online. Yeah, so back in 2005, it was me nana and granda would go to these markets, and because they were free with the PG Tips, Gromit mugs were everywhere. So they kept coming back with one. I'd inevitably break one, and the nose would rub off and stuff. And then I'd be bought another one. So then I don't know how the meme started. People were posting pictures of just this, and kind of speaking of its immense value. And I suppose the juxtaposition of how ridiculous of an item it is, just this kind of decapitated Gromit head, and people will put it in these different contexts and be like, the pros and cons of marriage and stuff is
I had no idea they were doing that.
you got all the pros, and then the cons are have to share the Gromit mug with the wife. And it's like, whoa.
I heard people were fighting at Asda over them, or wherever the supermarket.
I think so, back in the day, yeah.
They sold out very fast.
Yeah, but really big thing for some reason, and I'm glad it's kind of gotten back to you, as I noticed Nick just started wielding the Gromit mug every so often.
Yeah.
So
You've always had one, haven't you, Nick?
I have. I've got a couple in the house, original ones. So I'm not sure if this is. I think this is from the office.
That might be a new one.
I had this, but I've had this about 6 months. But yours is a different design, Jordan, than mine.
Yeah, this is the new one, and Nick has the original one there. Yeah.
Yours,
the glaze is a bit different, isn't it?
Yours is more bulbous in the face.
Yeah.
He's got the eyebrow raise. Merlin has you've got the M cup. I've seen that, the Wallace one. Yeah.
And that's
quite cool.
special that Cornishware sent me.
Yeah.
It's actually a W upside down, but it's close enough to an M.
It does, yeah, it does. And I said, but the first video I ever did was on, I don't think this has ever been mentioned to you before, so I just have to put it here, another kind of meme, the live action version of Wallace and Gromit created by Lenny Henry.
Oh yeah.
Now, I can't help but draw the connection. Obviously, this was a big thing online. People thought that it was a real live-action reboot and, like, lost tape and everything. And there was all this, like, kind of mystery around it. I, of course, kind of just went, it was a parody, this weird parody thing. Lenny Henry has ended up voicing the character in the new film. Was this at any point kind of that connection made?
Not really. We were aware of it, and like you say, it was actually done as a bit of fun in the 1990s, I think.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was kind of meant to look a bit sort of tatty and like a bit weird. And I'm not sure how much it was meant to be, but anyway, it kind of passed. We kind of let it go. Weren't sure quite what to make of it. But we never. I don't think Lenny even mentioned it, did he?
No. God, it's when I hear his voice now, I can't help but associate it. He did this hideous kind of Peter Sallis impression.
Gromit, I'd love a cheese toasty.
Moving on to Peter Sallis, God love him. We lost Peter in 2017. I think everyone was devastated at the time. And at that point, I thought, because there hadn't been films in a while, I thought, well, that's it. There'd be no more Wallace and Gromit. I suppose, basically, was that the case for you at the time? Did you think there was going to be a future for it? Obviously, Ben was always doing bits in the background. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was very, very, very sad, as you say, because so much had been built by Peter. The Wallace was his, and people associated with it. But like you say, Bennett has a history, of working with us, with Peter, even when Peter was around, and Peter sometimes would give his blessing for some jobs to be done by Ben, voiced by Ben.
Yeah, like computer games. Things like that.
Yeah.
I think the last time we actually worked officially with Peter was 2011, because he became too poorly to work.
Yeah.
And really over those years, then the first big job that Ben actually did for us was the BBC Wallace and Gromit prom, which was a live broadcast of the proms with additional Wallace and Gromit animation intertwined with it.
Yeah.
And that show ended up traveling around the world. I mean, it went to the Sydney Opera House. It was a great success, but that was sort of Ben's first sort of, if you like, big job that we did.
Yeah.
We've done quite a lot of other things since: augmented reality, the Grand Getaway, which was actually Emmy nominated this year, which is a big VR experience. All of those things have really just been a great sort of development ground for us to work with Ben over the years. And he just got better and better and better. And I'm really proud of what he's done for us on Vengeance Most Fowl, because he's not Peter, and we very much needed to let him be Ben, but he's got the heart and soul of Wallace brilliantly. And at times you can't, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. It really is. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
At the point of the Grand Getaways you mentioned, I got to play that as the company sent it out and stuff. And I remember hearing his voice on there, and I was like, whoa, he has really improved. There's parts where you have to double take. And I think it's been a kind of big focus on the channel. Well, as you can see, I've got a Kermit the Frog in the background and the Muppets, and that was kind of a big controversy when that character was recast again after Jim Henson. And the fans were furious. So when you and noticing that something's not right. In the case of Wallace and Ben Whitehead, nobody mentions it, which I think is great. That's,
Yeah, there's an interesting thing when you recast and it's the person who you've recast is still alive is one thing, but if the person has passed away and you have no option but to, if you want to make more with that character, recasting isn't really. I'm not sure recasting is the right word. It's picking up the baton and carrying the torch forwards. And Ben was never going to be Peter because they're two very different performers. But and so while we didn't want to exactly we never expected to have an absolute carbon copy of Peter, because you can't really do that, because especially not if you're going to allow your performer to perform, because they have to bring a bit of themselves to it. Otherwise, they're just parroting something else.
He's a very good mimic, though, isn't he?
He is, absolutely. He is. Yeah,
that's what we needed for the part.
Yeah,
you'd be restricted a lot, wouldn't you, in what you could do if it was like I imagine because you guys have to direct them in the booth, and if it was like, no, that's not exactly right, and just really
Yeah.
really nitpicking.
But we do that as well.
Yeah.
The mannerisms and everything are perfect. But what stood out to me that we live in a world at the minute where stunt casting is a really big thing. Like there was a Super Mario movie, and instead of the guy who did Mario, you get Chris Pratt or something. This Hollywood thing of we need recognizable names in animated films. And to me, Aardman's approach to having Ben, who for the most part will be unknown to people, but will no doubt work his way up. I think that's so much more admirable.
I mean, we're not immune from it. We did have big stars in the films early on.
I think it's the placement of them, isn't it? It's if you would, for example, give Wallace a completely different voice that didn't sound right,
Like Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, something like that, then that would be fuse. If you got brand new characters, then I think big names are great.
Yeah, they can help with marketing on the marketing side, I guess. But we've had some great well-known actors, A-listers really. Ray Fiennes and Helena Bonham Carter, and to name just a couple. But it's always, for us, it's about what the voice really, about performance, isn't it? And that's what. And in fact, some people who are good at mimicking, they may be good for a while. They may be able to carry off a comic sketch or something like that, a comedy sketch. But picking up on what Merlin's saying, it's the fact that Ben's an actor, that he can carry a movie like this, not just a good mimic.
Yeah, it's perfect for me personally. Just watching it just makes it a joy to watch when you're like, they've done really well with this. A comparison to the Wallace and Gromit films I've kind of made is that they are very much like a Laurel and Hardy. The two characters are picked up and dropped into these various scenarios. In the past, they haven't been particularly connected, which is the opposite of flipping Marvel universes and stuff. And obviously in this film, we'll get to see what Feathers McGraw has been up to and stuff like that, which is a really nice balance. It's because it works for the story, you're going back and exploring that character, but not needlessly cramming it with characters. The end of the last film, it finishes off with Fluffles, as with Wallace and Gromit. I don't suppose in your head you kind of have an idea of what happened to Fluffles after the film, because people keep asking.
A lot of people have been saying, "Well, are you bringing back Feathers? Where's Fluffles?"
Yeah, I thought after making Loaf and Death, there wasn't much reaction to Fluffles, but since then, many people. Because after that, I thought, oh, she must not have meant a lot to people or something like that, because it was fairly silent on it. But yeah. So who knows? I mean, I guess we haven't really talked about where she is actually.
Yeah.
But we didn't know really where Feathers was either.
But another character that I really did enjoy seeing back was PC Macintosh, played by Peter Kay. He's like my favourite comedian anyway. I went to see him like last year, and he's great. And hasn't done acting in so long, so it was great to see him come back for this. At what point was it decided to bring him back in, and what was it like to work with?
Well, it was for a while in the writing. It was kind of I always assumed we could, because Were Rabbit is part owned by DreamWorks. It was always a kind of a question of, can we actually use those characters? We'd have to get permissions and stuff like that. And then as soon as we, because early on I was thinking there'd be another policeman altogether. But then it became quite exciting. Just the idea of bringing Mac back would be a brilliant idea, and because he was so great in the Were Rabbit. And then we kind of looked into it, and it seemed like it was quite possible for us to get Mac back, and so that became a whole big exciting thing.
Yeah, and then once we'd sort of decided that, then we were just hoping and praying that Peter would be up for it, and luckily he was. What we didn't know at the time was that when we were asking him, he was in preparation, because it was quite a big under wraps about his great big tour. So
Yeah.
when he said yes, he was having to sort of like very generously kind of finding time just in between his gigs to come and record with us. So
Yeah.
but he was great, absolutely smashing.
Yeah. I'd read his like autobiography before, and he literally mentions in it, and like he's like, one of the best things I ever did was working with Nick Park and stuff, and Curse of the Were Rabbit. So it's no wonder he came back in a way. It's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
cool.
And he, I'm just going to plug it. The Art of book, which is out now. He actually very kindly, where is it? He wrote the foreword, I think.
Oh yeah.
Didn't he? Yeah, there he is. Look.
Oh, there it is. It's that one picture.
Yeah.
It's in a box to the side. I need to review it. But yeah, that's all really cool to see.
Yeah, he was brilliant, wasn't he?
He was really,
Yeah.
really good. Yeah.
Loved him.
Yeah.
And there's also the thing of, if we quickly touch upon the whole passage of time in Wallace and Gromit. PC Mac has a grey mustache in this film, which is like, this is a, such a small detail, but it like, to the fans are all like, oh my God, what's going on? It was great that we got to see him at different ages. So was this something that was like thoroughly discussed?
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing
and no.
the only thing that's aged in the film is Mac's mustache. Wallace and Gromit haven't aged at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, he goes to get his tash trimmed, and it doesn't actually change shape.
I
I
thought
don't know
that.
if you noticed that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes,
Just getting ahead of all the continuity geeks out there.
that's right.
But yeah, it's pretty perfect. I want to touch on, of course, that the main thing of the film is AI and stuff. The lesson of the film is that technology has its place, but you don't let it consume you, and which I see around us all the time. When you see kids just mindlessly scrolling through things, and maybe what they're watching is just AI generated stuff, and it's all just like stuff. It's not made by people anymore, and that kind of always freaked me out a bit. And people will say, why do all this stop motion frame by frame? You can just type it in on an AI prompt, and that to me it's really scary and really depressing. But Wallace and Gromit has this warm, cozy atmosphere that I think Nick's kind of created. Merlin, you've got like a really good idea of it. I think you really get it. What makes it what it is. And it's kind of your job to protect the brand and everything. So yeah, what are your thoughts on all this AI stuff? And yeah, I imagine you'll keep it away with the barge pole.
Yeah, I guess it's the handmade, the human touch is integral to the stop motion process, and specifically to Wallace and Gromit. I think it's really, really essential. That, I mean, I don't think you could just say make a Wallace and Gromit film into AI, and I don't certainly not in today's world. There's something. It's a bit similar to Gromit loving gardening. There's something about the process and the creativity and the making of something, which is very similar to making a stop motion film. Yeah, you can make films in other ways, but I personally love working with other people, working with clay with my fingers, and I think that is as valuable as anything.
Yeah.
And also, just to say, we can't say we haven't used AI on this film, because if we've used like a smartphone of some sort, those inherently have AI of some form. So you have to be very careful what you say about how I haven't used AI.
Very true.
What we can say is that we haven't and we wouldn't use AI for voice, for sort of generating images. But
it's such a kind of, you're right on that. It's such a kind of buzzword at the minute. Every radio advert and TV, it's like AI this, AI that, and I'm like, am I the only one kind of noticing this? And of course, it's such a broad term, really. AI's been around for flipping years, but but it's the in thing, isn't it? Which I suppose it's a good job with the film, you know.
But it's also in the creative arts. It's been, especially in the US, where there've been writers' strikes and creative strikes about how AI is used and the potential impact to their contracts and their income. So, just within our industry, it is a hot topic at the moment, and it's really important that people talk about it as well.
Yeah. Hopefully, Norbot goes a bit of a way in scaring
you made
people
a
away from
Norbot?
AI. That is a Funko Norbot.
Oh, is it the Funko one? Oh, sorry, I didn't
yeah.
have my glasses on. Oh, yes, so it is.
But
Yeah.
the funny thing is, the Funkos have black eyes by default.
Yeah.
So it gets them
Yeah.
soulless black eyes. That was one of the coolest parts of the film. I loved it. I think you mentioned, Nick, Village of the Damned was an inspiration.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. It got some gasps in the cinema, though. It was cool.
Great.
Something I wanted to also ask Nick, considering I'd brought my sister at the show and she was sitting next to us. About 10 minutes into the film, she looks at us really confused and goes, "Why hasn't Gromit said anything yet?" I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, you have watched all the videos and stuff. It's at this point I realised how long it had been since there'd been a Wallace and Gromit film. But there was originally a voice for Gromit. And basically, in Batting a Grand Day Outright, that was unused.
Yeah.
Does that recording exist anywhere?
I don't know if it does. I think it never. I think I left it at film school. I think, and tapes were often reused. Mag tape we used to use, 16mm mag tape. So I'm not sure if it does exist, but it was with an actor who did a lot of voice work for things called Peter Hawkins, and those that are old enough would remember him from kids shows like Puppet or Captain Pugwash and things like that.
Yeah.
Older than that, Bill and Ben,
Yeah.
the Wooden Tops,
That kind of
Spotty
mumbling
Dog.
stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, and Spotty Dog did a voice very similar. It was a bit like Scooby-Doo in modern terms, where you'd hear Wallace say something and then he'd go, and do a sort of mimic, a doggy kind of mimic of it.
It is so iconic that happened.
Yeah, the reason I dropped the voice was because, one of the first days of shooting at film school, there was just practical reasons why I couldn't get round Gromit's to re-sculpt his mouth every frame, and you couldn't see it at that point either because of his angle. So and I just decided to try moving the brow up and down, and that suddenly he didn't need a voice. He said everything.
It's just much better in every way. It's incredible. I do have to mention obviously a lot of the things were in the trailers. There was one massive surprise in the film. By the time this video goes out, the film will be out there. I've actually got a note here from before I saw the film, which reads, "Is Wallace and Gromit in the Shaun the Sheep universe?" I think the film kind of answers that. But whose idea was it to stick the farmer in the film?
It's in our. We have all these ears meetings and gag meetings, and I can't remember who came up with that exactly. But it was seen as just a nice little Easter egg to have, really.
But it's probably less does Wallace and Gromit exist in the Shaun the Sheep. It's does Shaun the Sheep exist in the Wallace and Gromit world? Because Shaun does come from Close Shave, after all.
Yes, but since then we have made a conscious decision to separate the two universes.
And I think I'm right in saying that the farmer, because back in the day when we were doing the development of Shaun the Sheep, I might be wrong in saying this, but I'll say it anyway, that there wasn't enough money in the pot, and so they just used a Wallace armature and dressed it up. So Wallace and the farmer are pretty much exactly the same size, just with different kind of dressing and heads on.
That's really cool. So Shaun the Sheep, about 2007 maybe. I was maybe a bit older, like 6. And I remember at the time thinking this is a different Shaun, surely. Because you got the close shave one, like this. He's in his knitted jumper.
That's right. We do differentiate between the two.
Yeah. So I suppose the farmer being in Wallace and Gromit just throws a massive wrench in that in the best possible way.
Yeah.
It's Nick's Wallace-averse.
The thing is, I don't really you can get fans that are like, oh, this doesn't add up and stuff. As long as it's fun and as long as it's entertaining,
right.
I'm like,
it's
really
and it's
cool.
kind of a joke, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's only done because it is a rule that's been broken.
Yeah. It would be cool would be cool to see them cross over if a bit weird. But most have got a final question. Christmas this year has been amazing because of the return of Wallace and Gromit, right? Particularly for me, they've been on BBC iDance, they've been on Radio Times, Strictly Come Dancing, and projected onto the Battersea Power Station. It's been really cool. I love the vibe of Wallace and Gromit at Christmas time. Going forward, would you ever consider a proper Wallace and Gromit Christmas film?
It's true. None of them have been Christmas films, have they?
Yeah, it's something I thought.
It makes them quite specific for what time of year you can show them, if that were the case. So probably for that reason, we never have really.
Yeah.
So,
There's been a sort of a Christmassy Shaun episode, isn't there, with Flight Before Christmas? And
Yes, there was, yeah. It's just funny because people say, oh, Wallace and Gromit, it's a Christmas thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's this tradition. And I'm like, come to think of it, there's not really a Christmas film though. But
no, the ident's
that'd be
about
cool.
the most Christmassy thing we ever do with Wallace and Gromit.
and that's right. Commercials maybe, but yeah, it's always been a conscious thing not to do it in a way with Wallace and Gromit. So love Christmas stories, but I think because they started also being shown at any holiday, whether it be Easter or bank holiday, whatever. And now it's more of a focus on Christmas. Yeah.
It's one of my favourite debates. Sort of filmmakers, geeky film fan debates is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Oh yeah. You said the same with Wallace and Gromit.
It totally is for me.
Yeah.
But a lot of people go, no, it isn't.
There was a couple of. Do you remember the Kraken contraptions? Those little shorts.
Yeah.
A couple of them were Christmassy.
Yeah, that's right. A couple of them are.
Yeah.
We did those to prep the crew for Were Rabbit.
Yeah.
Because we hadn't done any Wallace and Gromit, so it was straight out of Chicken Run, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That would have been kind of early on for you, Merlin, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a time when there was a bit of downtime, and we needed to somehow keep the animators busy as well, and that was an idea to let people have a go at both directing and animating Wallace and Gromit.
That's right, and it was after Tortoise and Hare, wasn't it? And Tortoise and Hare had gone wrong, and we'd done Chicken Run, so we were animation wise we were up to speed, but we weren't necessarily tuned into the world of Wallace and Gromit, so it was a great ramp up into Were Rabbit.
Yeah. But I think we'll have to kind of close off. As much as I could talk for hours, I really could.
Oh no.
Oh well, Jordan, it's been great to catch up with you.
It's been absolutely amazing. From what I hear, there's a possibility. I've kind of provisionally been invited to the studios next year.
Fantastic.
But yeah, this film has been just this massive success, and I really appreciate you putting all the time to it, and more so taking your time to speak to me about it. So thank you both so much.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. Cheers.
Yeah, you're very
Cheers.
welcome. Yeah, and keep up the channel. It's great.
Thanks so much. We'll have to outroll with a Gromit mug.
Cheers, me old pal.